Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to talk Bounty Hunters. What Bounty Hunters is a brand new core battalion. We're going to go through and talk about exactly what this is in just a sec, but this is one of the new core battalions in the new General's Handbook, and it is one of the special battalions we get for playing in Gallant. So, let's talk about this battalion and what makes it special. So, first of all, this battalion can contain 2 to 3 troop type units, and troop units are units that can be any sort of unit really, but they're not a leader, behemoth or artillery battlefield role on their pitched battle profile. Units in this battalion, when attacking with melee attacks against a Galatian veteran unit, have their damage characteristic of their melee weapons increased by 1. Now, it's important to talk about Galatian veterans. This is a new rule that has been brought into the game. Galatian veterans in this particular type of game played in Gallant in this new battle pack, they're battle line units that do not have mounts and have 4 or less wounds. And they get their own benefits, and we'll talk about them in a different video, but for now we're talking about Bounty Hunters. We're going to talk about a battalion specifically designed to kill those particular units. Now, units in this battalion can also themselves be Galatian veterans, though this means they will both be at the benefit of the battalion getting the +1 damage, but they'll also be at risk from other units in this battalion, so if your opponent's also taking the battalion, you'll be at risk of having that unit be able to be +1 damaged as well. To avoid the above, in today's video, we're going to look at units that cannot be Galatian veterans, but are still troop choices for the purposes of the battalion. This means we'll get all the benefits, but none of the negatives. So, we are looking for battle line units that have a wounds characteristic of 5 or more, or are mounted, as units with a mount can never be Galatian veterans. And so, with all of that said, we're going to go through every army in the game. I'm going to talk about one unit I think is a great choice for a bounty hunter battalion in your army. So, with that said, let's get cracking on into it. Starting off for the Elves, we have the Daughters of Khaine, and I think a unit that is incredibly underrated for Daughters of Khaine is the Doomfire Warlocks. These all make a fantastic bounty hunter unit. First of all, they're cavalry, so no matter what, they're always going to be a bounty hunter unit. They've got 2 wounds, as most cavalry do, with a 5-up save. They have 2 attacks with their Cursed Scimitar, hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s with -1 rend and damage 1. They've also got a couple of additional 4 and 4 attacks from their mounts as well, giving them 4 attacks per model. Now, there are some other units that can put out similar sort of attacks. You've got a lot of other models on 3 attacks with rend 1, hitting on 3s and 3s. I think when you start getting the buffs, the Doomfire Warlocks do get that bit better being bounty hunters. They've also got a 12-inch range shooting attack in addition, which is great for getting screens out the way, which puts 2 attacks per model, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s with no rend and damage 1. And they're also a wizard as well. Another way they can get rid of screens really nicely. The more models in the Doomfire Warlocks unit, the more damage this unit can do. Now, I mentioned they take buffs really well. Something like Mind Razor on this unit already increases them to +1 rend and +1 damage, putting rend on all 4 of their attacks and making their attacks already damage 2, meaning they can put out 4 damage 2 attacks each with all rend of -1 or -2 when they charge from Mind Razor. Put them in a Bounty Hunter, that goes to damage 3. Really starting to look like something nasty. On top of that, they could also take a prayer on top, something like Catechism of Murder, to give them exploding 6s to hit as well, each 6 then generating 2 hits instead of 1. I think these guys are incredibly underrated for Daughters of Khaine. Onto the Idoneth Deepkin, and we have a Kellyan Morsar Guard. Once again, this is a cavalry unit, so they can never be veterans. They got 4 wounds and a 4-up save, and also a nice 14-inch flying move. This makes them incredibly good at skipping over screens and getting into the targets they really want to be getting into. Now, you only have 2 attacks with their Volt Spears that hit and wound on a 3 with no rend and damage 1. However, when this unit charges, it gets to have a rend of -2, and also the damage characteristic changes to 2 as well, making them incredibly powerful on the charge. 3 more attacks come out of each mount, hitting and wounding on 3s with -1 rend and damage D3. This just looks really good. When you put +1 damage on the charge in this unit, and they've got 2 damage 3 attacks at rend 2 coming out of the riders, and 3 damage D3 +1 attacks with -1 rend coming out of the mounts, that's a pretty good source of damage. The unit once per battle can also choose to unleash their Biovoltic Blast, which allows you to roll a dice for each model in the unit. On a 4+, the enemy unit will take mortal wounds. On a 6, they'll take a D3, however. You can also add 1 to these rolls if your Aelves Guard unit is ever outnumbered. For me, this is just a solid unit all around to get into. You definitely got some other good options. I think if you're particularly playing with a Futhan army and you want to take like the Bloodthirsty Shiver for the Aelves Alapexes is certainly another good option for Idoneth. And even, you know, the other versions of Eels, the Chilean Guard, the defensive Eels can still put up some decent amount of attacks with their models. They'll be a little bit more better at a protracted fight. So I think all 3 options of mounted stuff for the Idoneth really are solid options. For the Lumineth, we have Venari Dawn Riders. Now, at first glance, there are definitely other options I think people are certainly looking at, like the Blade Lords, but I do think this is where Dawn Riders come in. Certainly, when they get the charge, they are going to be the unit to have. So you've got a 2-wound cavalry unit with a 4-up save. This means even if they are a battle line unit, they can't ever become a veteran unit because they are cavalry. They're really fast with a 14-inch move and also have access to a spell that can double that move, so taking them to 28 inches. They only have 1 attack each standard on the rider, though you do get 2 attacks if you have the Guardian Sword on your champion. The Sun Metal Lance, though, really where it's at is hitting on 3s and wounding on 4s, and you've also got a couple of extra 4 and 4 attacks from the mount as well. Sun Metal weapons are really nice. They do a mortal wound on a 6+ to hit, and this can be increased by a 5+ with the Power of High spell, which is on the unit's War Scroll. Whenever this unit charges as well, Sun Metal Lancers add 1 to their wound rolls, making them 3s and 3s, and increase their rend by 1 as well, which is really nice. So they're going to be 3s and 3s with -1 rend. Lastly, this is where it really comes into it for me. The unit can start the combat phase, can use to elect to use its Deathly Furrows ability. If you do so, you increase your attacks by +1 for both mount and rider, and you can only target units with wounds of 1 or 2 that are not mounted. Or you increase your attacks for both mount and rider by +2, and you can target units with a wound characteristic of 1 and do not have a mount, meaning you get a ton of attacks. You've got 3 attacks from the rider and 4 attacks from the mount, 7 attacks per model there. 3 of those are potentially dealing mortal wounds on a 5-up with rend and a bunch of extra attacks. For me, this is the unit. I think they just do a ton of damage when you can get them into the right target. There's going to be a lot of 1-wound infantry that really do not want to be facing down the barrel of a Dawn Rider's charge. And lastly, for the Elves, we have the Sylvaneth and Spite Rider Lancers. I think are a great unit for a bounty hunter. 5 wounds and a 4-up save. They are flying cavalry with a nice big 14-inch move. Once again, Elves are super fast. The Spite Rider Lancers, the models are armed with, have 4 attacks, hitting and wounding on 3s with -2 rend and damage 1. Remembering, going to damage 2 is nice here. The mount also has 3 attacks with its sharp mandibles, hitting on 4s and wounding on 3s with -1 rend and damage 1 as well. The cool thing about this unit is whenever the unit charges, it has the ability to fight first. And also, at the end of every turn, you heal any wounds allocated to this unit. So this doesn't mean you bring models back, but it does mean if you've got like one guy that suffered 4 wounds, he heals them all. So unless your opponent does lots of 5, you heal stuff back, which is really, really cool. This unit can be battleline in particular subfactions, which is nice, and there's also some other great ways to get some real good extra Alpha Strike movement out of these units as well throughout the Sylvaneth battle tome. I think these are a really great shout. There's a lot of good units in Sylvaneth. If you're not playing in a army, you know, something with lots of attacks like Spite Revs, if they're not one of the ones you're playing, or even, you know, looking at Kurnoth Hunters are another great unit. They're 5 wounds standard, meaning they're not veterans themselves. A lot of good options in Sylvaneth for your bounty hunter units. And so that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop us a comment down below letting us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by joining our Patreon or YouTube members, or grabbing some channel merch off our merch store on Teespring, which is on our YouTube store as well. You can also come chat with me and other members of our little community here and our Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description, along with the Patreon and YouTube members links. And as a special shout out to all those Patreons and YouTube members, we'd like to give them all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons, Christian Weir, James, Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Derek, and Giapi390. And a special thank you to our YouTube members, Green Roost Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Locke Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Sean Scott, Pink Nico Fire, and Robin Mankiller as well. Lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to everyone who comes on the channel and helps us create everything we do. Thank you all for watching once again, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.